Hello and welcome to another Takeda episode of the Eternal Law. On the last Takeda episode we saw several battles against the Shogun forces off to the west, fighting mainly over the recently captured area of Harima. More importantly than that, we saw the Takeda make their final assault on Kyoto itself, overwhelming the enemy and setting their defences to the torch, whilst the Takeda troops forced their way inside in a fairly bloody battle that eventually ended in total victory, with the shogunate forces being killed to the man, including the death of the shogun himself. So now Kyoto belongs to the Takeda, and following on from this, they began a policy of westward expansion, pushing their forces out to the western borders. Meanwhile, a Sogo fleet attacked the Takeda fleet in the bay near Owari, but the Takeda destroyed them with use of their firebomb koboyas. Now let's continue. Regarding your concerns, firstly we call the whole thing a development rather than a problem. Despite what you say, the Christians have been perfectly friendly and have even been of help to us on several occasions. Matchlocks are not their only tricks. You correctly identify that the people west of our borders support the Nanban Master God more than our native deities. We do not believe that they should be banished from future shogunate lands as you do. We see this change as rather less disastrous than you imagine. So we're picking up with the battle results of that naval battle we saw at the end of the last Takeda episode. You can see that we captured a whole load of Sengoku Bune, so we're going to be able to crew those ourselves and have a nice little addition to our fleets in the area. I'm going to send all of those damaged Sengoku Bunes back to the docks to repair and recrew, as I said. And as you might remember, what I also need to do in this area is break away this Sogo fleet, which is currently blockading the Takeda's trade port in the area. So I'm going to send in all the ships I have that aren't really damaged to go in and take them out, and we capture a whole load more ships as a result. So now the Takeda have like 3 stacks of ships in this area, but I need to get them all repaired up because half of them are damaged or are missing most of their crew, and have a whole load of firebomb koboyas in there as well. Now speaking of interesting ships, the European Black Ship is here. This is a famous ship that sails around Japan and is pretty much impossible to defeat. But you can see someone's tried because it's already lost most of its crew, but they're the ones that remain a maximum level, and that ship is full of cannons, which means that the Japanese ships of the era have almost no chance against them, so I won't be taking them on for now. So back up in Harima, you can see I've quickly displaced a Shogun army that was just hanging around, and they start heading back towards the border, and now it's free for me to move westwards towards Bizen province. So I'm going to have a look at what they have. Just a couple of small armies here. I force one back into the castle, attack another, but I guess I had no movement points, so it has to engage in battle. The guys inside the castle are forced to come and reinforce them in this fight, which means they're basically being led to the slaughter because I have a huge advantage there. So by doing that auto-resolve, I wipe out both that small army and the guys that retreated back to the castle, which means now all I have to do is overcome the castle's default garrison. It shouldn't be too hard. You can see I already have an advantage, but I'm not going to attack just yet because I might be able to get even more forces up there to make sure that I win. I wanted to see whether it was okay for me to move some of the Harima garrison out, because actually I'm a little bit thin on the ground. I want to get all the forces I can out and active. So one thing I'm going to do to help me make my decision is send my ninja up there towards the Christian rebel province. You can see the Christians here just have a small Ashigaru army that is currently undergoing remanning itself, and the province itself is actually in terrible condition. So not much of a threat, so I wasn't too worried about it. On the north coast here, you can see I'm loading men into ships, and these guys are going to be heading west. The reason I can't head west normally is because the Hatakeyama have captured this little block of territory here, and they won't let me walk through it because they won't give me military access, because they actually don't like me very much, which is rather annoying for one of my vassals. I wouldn't be that surprised if they betrayed me. But anyway, you can see I've moved some ships, one carrying the army led by Nobushige, and 2 escort groups just in case that ship gets attacked on the way, which of course it didn't. So there we go. Now Nobushige has landed troops right in the middle of some Shogun territory there. He can't move because landing troops on an area that doesn't have a dock costs all of your movement points. So unfortunately he's going to be stranded there for one turn, and he's going to be at the mercy of any Shogun armies in the area. So I'm going to have to hope for a bit of luck in that situation. You can see I also spotted a Shogun trade fleet operating nearby, and I thought probably in the next turn I can gather enough ships to go and both displace them and steal that trade node for myself. It will be the first time that we've seen either the Takeda or the Tokyo to control a trade node. Basically, it just gives you extra resources which allow you to build special things, and it gives you extra money per turn, so it's always a good thing to try and do. So now back down with the Bizin situation, I'm moving up more men, mostly just some veteran Ashigaru, to reinforce the army that's going into the attack. It doesn't really need reinforcing, as I said, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's going to minimize casualties, and I need these guys around in Bizen because the Shoni might immediately counterattack, so the more men I have just hanging around in the area, the better. At the same time, I'm going to attack that Shoni army which I've been pushing towards the border earlier, have a large advantage by attacking them with 2 experience stacks, while their stack is not really experienced at all, so they are going to suffer a defeat at the hands of Shingen there. The survivors from that battle start retreating backwards over to the next province, but I thought I don't really need both armies to pursue them anymore, so the army that was reinforcing Shingen, led by General Suwa, is going to spin round and go and help out in the attack on Bizin. Meanwhile, I'm going to push Shingen forwards to just eliminate that Shoni army. I don't want those survivors to restore any of their troops. I'm going to get rid of them, delete all those regiments from the field, and earn Shingen yet another victory against these Christian scum. So that's that army gotten rid of. So now Shingen could, in theory, start moving forwards towards that Christian stronghold, but actually he's taken fair casualties in the last 2 battles, so I'm just moving him back to friendly territory where he'll start restoring his troops. So now it's finally time to try and attack Bizen. It turned out that the 3rd army I'd brought in can't actually reinforce the assault this turn, so I came to see how powerful it actually was with just the 2 groups, and I was pretty overwhelmingly powerful, so I thought I'll just go ahead and try and auto-resolve an assault to take the castle quickly. It goes extremely well, very low casualties, a level up for the general in command, and that's another Christian province claimed for the Buddhist forces of Takeda. Now you can see there's actually a Christian monk hanging around in this area, so he's going to be converting the province to Christianity with a lot of zeal, so we need to try and get rid of him ideally. He's only rank 2, which means in theory it should be quite easy to take him down, but all I have is this rank 1 Metsuke in the area. He has a small chance to apprehend him, so I'm going to go in and attempt to do that. I also need to repair up the castle since it was damaged in the assault, but the apprehension failed, so that Christian monk is going to continue to wreak havoc. I did not know what to expect from these Christian lands, but never did I expect to find a whole fief taken over by the people in the name of their nameless god. Rebels trying to break away from our ancient practices? The only reason they dared do this is because the eco got so far by doing the same. But look what happened to them in the end. I guess those Christians would rather not think about that, but I do fear that while we were focused on the eco, those Christians have become an even greater threat. So now we're at the beginning of the next turn, and look at this, the Hatakeyama have adopted Christianity, so it seems that the Christians may be further dampening my cause by actually turning my vassals against me, because now they're going to have a strong diplomatic penalty with me because I'm of a different religion to them, so perhaps they're going to try and force my vassal to rebel. But at least here I can get some revenge by attacking the Christians who have occupied this province. First, I need to sabotage this small Shoni force. This means they won't be able to reinforce the Christians inside the castle when Shingen comes to the attack. The castle itself was heavily damaged, which gives me an advantage in the attack. The gates were open. I had a big advantage there on the balance bar because the enemy's garrison was depleted and inferior in quality, so Shingen easily captures the castle. So now that Shoni force there is in trouble, and I'm going to invest quite a lot of money here. First, repairing everything that was damaged for whatever reason, and then further investing in the infrastructure of this province because it does have a lot of potential. However, it seems the previous rebel owners hadn't treated it very well. I'm investing a bit of money there, and one thing I've acquired there is superior iron, a special resource that lets you build certain very high tier buildings and units, so that's handy to have. And now, Nobushige is able to begin his invasion of the nearby Shoni province from sea, which he began at the last turn. He has a huge advantage, so he takes it with ease, so that's Hoki province captured for us. So we very nicely encircled the Hatakeyama lands that they took just to the east there, and now we can safely continue our pursuit west against the Shoni. Of course, if the Hatakeyama were to betray us, that could be a problem, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they're not going to for now. Now out to sea here, you can see there was a random Shoni ship just sitting here, so I thought I'd get rid of them. I moved in, it was a single understaffed Bokuboya, not much there, but behind it is the Shoni's trade fleet, full of trade ships. So I decided I'm going to move all the ships I have in the area to try and displace them off this trade node so I can steal it for myself. I get all my ships ready, I move in, and thankfully the enemy simply retreats, so the trade node is immediately available for me to capture. So I have to look through these little fleets here and see if I actually have any trade ships. I only had a couple because I've mainly been building military ships, since so far the hope of me getting trade nodes under my control has been so low I haven't really focused on getting trade ships to take them, but at least from now on I'll be able to. Now some of these fleets are quite damaged, so I'm going to start moving them back to port, and then while they're there I'll add some trade ships in and then go and really secure that trade node, and then we'll be making some nice money off that, which will be cool. So now back down near Bizen, we'll need to move westward against the next Shoni province. You can see I moved in, I already had a massive advantage if I just attacked the castle immediately, but I'm not going to because I wanted to well, get as many men as I can in the area to prevent any unnecessary Takeda deaths. So the next army, led by General Suwa, is moving up into the province. First, I wanted to attack this little group here, but he actually ran out of movement points just as he came in, which means he can't attack that little group, nor can he reinforce the attack on the castle. But really, the castle is easy enough to take. You can see from the balance bar there that we're going to have a very easy time. So General Sanayuri very easily captures the castle, so Bichu is now ours. Bichu is a famous Christian province, and I guess that's why the Shoni were holding it. But you can see here from the construction options, it does have a Nanban trade port, which is going to be spreading Christianity like wildfire in the area, so I need to get rid of that trade port, well, as soon as I notice it anyway. It looks like I didn't notice it straight away. So now back down in the Owari area, I noticed a single Shoni ship was blockading the Kitabatake trade port, so I thought, well, I'll go and clear it out. But as I approached, it turned out to be a Nanban trade ship that the Shoni seem to have got into their possession. These ships are extremely powerful, so you can see just that one ship was equal to my 6 ships. So I thought, well, what I could do is get even more ships, pile them into the attack, just to make sure I definitely have an advantage in this attack. First, I'm building a few more ships in the area there, but you can see I have another fleet full of Koboyas here that can move in and support my fleet of Sengoku Bunes against this one apparently invincible trade ship. So I get everyone together and head into the assault, but strangely the balance bar is even less in my favour, so I've actually put more ships into the battle, and yet the enemy has gained a greater advantage. I have no idea what was going on here, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to leave it to blockade the Kitabatake lands. I'm not making much money off that trade anyway. And now as we move into the next turn, we get this very special cutscene.
The wind has changed. Now, we fly like dragons. No longer will I bow to lesser men. All bow to me. But our enemies still march. So what? Victory is within my grasp. All will fear the Takeda. All will fear me, for I am Shogun.
Oh, and also,
raining fire upon the enemy has a devastating effect on their morale and the structural integrity of their buildings.
that video was somewhat overshadowed by the video that came before it, but yes, we've had some firebomb throwers, pretty cool. You can see here the Christians are attempting to convert more of my characters. Darn those Christians, but hey, I'm the Shogun now, which means the Takeda clan has been officially renamed as the Takeda Shogunate. All of my units are now Shogunate units. They have extra morale. You can see here I've been given some free units, one of which is Great Guard Cavalry, the most powerful unit in the game, and 2 units of Yari Cavalry to back it up. It also means I can now construct Great Guard Cavalry whenever I want. So finally the Takeda have access to the ultimate mounted unit. So this should herald a new age for Takeda's military campaigns at least, but it's going to take me a while to get some of those units into the field because they're extremely expensive, and I'm going to have to build them right back in my home provinces where my infrastructure is best. So now we're looking at the battlefront on Bichu, where the Shoni appear to have some armies ready to come in and perhaps contest the province once again. I attempted to apprehend their monk for a second time, but the monk actually killed my Metsuke. Incredibly violent action from this supposedly peaceful man, and you can see the influence of Christianity in this province is shooting through the roof. To help counter that, I've just destroyed the trade port, but I'm actually going to put it straight back to see if I could build any of those Nanban trade ships for myself, but unfortunately I can't. The fools of Kyushu, the Shoni, have been taken in by the shiny tokens and mighty ideas of the Western world. But you would think that they, seeing as they are the closest to it, would know about what the Christians have done to the once great Chinese, what they have done to the Indians, what they have done across all Asia but for our chaste shores. And they welcome it as if a life of poverty and exploitation is all we deserve. Perhaps that is what their god thinks, but it's not what the Shogun thinks. Now back in Hoki, I wanted to check whether the people would mind if I just moved my army out of the province, and it seems they're vaguely okay with it, and I want to do so because the next Shonin province here is relatively unguarded, so I think I can sneakily take it. I attack the Shoni army standing outside the castle and it moves back inside the castle, so now that actually is a fairly hefty force to go against once the garrison is included, especially because that's a heavily upgraded castle by the looks of things, so it would be difficult to get inside. I move into the siege. We have a tiny advantage on the balance bar, not really enough to justify an auto resolve. I could win it if I fought it myself, but it could still be difficult. So I want to move up more forces onto this battlefront anyway, because I can't just have Nobushige attempting to run his way down this northern coast of Japan, capturing everything. So first I'm moving up a reinforcement army by ship from the other side of the Hatakeyama lands. They don't really have anywhere good to land, unfortunately, so they're going to have to land on the beach, which costs all of their movement points, which means they won't actually be able to move up to take part in the fighting until the next turn. So my next option is to have Shingen going back up Nobushige. It seems that he is able to leave the province because the people in this area don't appear to really mind when he leaves. I move a few troops back just as a small garrison in case they were to get a little bit discontent, but for the most part Shingen's army is moving up to go and stand behind Nobushige, and now we've just doubled our force. So if we go back into the battle screen here, you can see our advantage is now giant, so I can just auto-resolve that and avoid having to assault a very difficult castle and capture it for myself. So now I have a very nice defensive position, so the enemy will struggle to get into the castle just like I would have struggled to get in myself. So that is another province that we've managed to steal from the Shoni. Very good, we're actually eating their territory. They still have about 75% of their territory, but I can't get through it. And look here, the Shoni trade fleet, which I displaced last turn, is now very close to my trade fleet, and it has some of those Nanban trade ships in it. If it was to attack me, the cannons on those ships could absolutely destroy my flimsy wooden vessels. Anyway, we're going to ignore that for now and focus on what's going on down in Awaji Island, because Takeda Nobukado has finally built up enough ships to be able to lead the assault on Awaji. We have enough ships to get past their small navy, which can't really challenge us at this point. I can't land at their docks because their navy is occupying it, which means I'm forced to land on the beach if I want to get in. But I noticed that the enemy have two armies on the island. I didn't want to force Nobukado to fight those two armies with his one, especially when he's trapped on the beach. So I thought maybe I can move up some reinforcements to help out. I realised I did have another reinforcement army, which I was planning to send to Awaji Island but hadn't got them into ships yet, so I thought I probably could send these guys down to actually help out. But that's only really going to happen in the next turn, so the naval invasion was actually cancelled for now. I'll have to wait until next time. Now as the end turn sequence comes along, one of the Shoni armies marches towards Bichu, but I'd set up an ambush position just in case they did do this while I was consolidating my forces. As a result, we have a giant advantage from this army because our two armies are attacking their one, but interestingly their army is full of matchlock troops and European cannons, siege units that are very rarely seen on Japanese shores. Very interesting, but they were not good enough to take down my men, unfortunately, especially after being ambushed. All of their rifle units are only import matchlock Ashigaru, inferior to the Japanese native matchlock Ashigaru. They're not quite as powerful as what we've seen the Oda using in the Oda campaign. So now once that turn's done, you can see there the Shoni piled units into Bichu. They haven't actually attacked, but they are definitely threatening to attack by the looks of things. However, I now have the initiative. I can try and take out some of these armies by ganging up on them with my two armies to take on one of their one armies, and then the remaining army should struggle to actually get into the castle once the garrison is taken into account. So I'm going to do just that against this army down here that's sitting on our docks. We move in, we have a giant advantage. The combined armies of Sanayori and General Suwa there are going to eliminate that small enemy force. Interestingly, that enemy force had some fire projecting mangonels in it, another rare unit, sort of siege catapult unit that fires explosive bombs. You very rarely see those on the battlefield, but it seems the Shogun are heavily investing in gunpowder based weapons. I guess this is the Christian influence talking here. Now I just need to move these armies back to try and guard the castle against any future attacks. I didn't quite have enough power to actually pursue this enemy army if it retreats, but still I thought I might as well just displace it. So I moved over, the enemy army retreats as you would expect from this large disadvantage, and now I'm going to have to just sit around the castle. I thought I probably can actually set up another ambush. The enemy probably rather foolhardily won't expect me to do exactly the same plan again, so I'll set up an ambush there, have a little bait unit here to draw them in, and that should deal with any potential threats to beat you coming in the next end turn sequence. So now I'm going to retry that naval invasion. This time I'm bringing in 3 stacks of troops, so I'm hoping I'll definitely have enough men to take the island this time. However, as I moved up, you can see there's actually a 3rd stack of Sogo troops defending the island. But I thought this time I can't really go back. I don't really have any local troops I could pile in. So what I have here is going to have to do. I land my men on the beach. They've used all their movement points, so now they are at the mercy of those 3 enemy armies to attack. They're really near each other, so they'll definitely reinforce. So it'll be a fair fight, even if the enemy piles everything in. But if they have a 4th stack, then things could start getting interesting. Now back up on the coast where Nobushige and Shingen were hanging around, I moved the ninja forward to check out the next Shoni province. It looks like it was almost unguarded, so I thought I'm going to sneakily steal it. Takeda Nobushige had enough movement points to move all the way from the previous castle we captured to capture this one. Now this is an extremely useful province to capture, not because it's particularly good in terms of its defences against Shoni counter-invasion, but because it contains a gold mine, an extremely valuable province then. I'm going to make a lot of money from controlling this province. You can see here the province has a chapel in it, so they're trying to convert the population to Christianity, and as a Nanban trade port, further converting the population. So these guys are all Christians basically. We're really deep into Christian territory at this point. So these areas are going to be harder to hold. They're starting to rebel. You can see here Izumo is on the verge of rebellion, so I'm going to have to move troops to try and pacify those guys. Now in the next end turn sequence, the Sogo don't attack my troops on Awaji Island. Very interesting. They just maneuvered around. I guess they didn't think they had enough of an advantage. So we'll see if I can exploit that in a moment. Here in Bichu, I'm moving west again, attempting to move into Bingo province. But you can see there are actually some Shoni armies hanging around here. The castle itself is very strong with a large garrison. I wanted to try and get rid of these 2 regiments that were standing on the road. However, they were actually being reinforced by one of the local Shoni armies, so I couldn't quite get past them without a fair fight. And we don't want to have a fair fight, especially when I have a 2nd army so close that can come in and back us up. So I started maneuvering to get my 2nd army to engage in that battle as well, hoping I could actually draw that enemy reinforcement army in and defeat them, but rather smartly the enemy just retreats into the castle. So now I can't really take the castle. It has 2 armies reinforcing it, and I only have 2 armies, so the enemy has a numerical advantage and the defender's advantage. So what I do for now is use General Suwa to set up an ambush around the position where Sanayori is now stuck because he's out of movement points, and just hope that that situation goes well in the next end turn sequence. Hopefully I can get an ambush on the enemy and get rid of one of their armies. So now I'm moving a ninja further along the northern Japanese coast to check out the next set of Shoni defenses that I need to deal with Nobushige and Shingen's army. Here at Nagato, you can see they have a fairly hefty defense. There's a full stack in that castle, and it's a powerful castle. But I realize I can get 2 armies up to challenge that castle just about, which means I can still have a nice double numerical advantage. Plus, of course, these troops in these armies are super elite, and the generals leading them are super elite, which means the balance bar skews in my favor despite me not having a really giant advantage. So I can cheekily steal this castle, and it's good that I did so because it looks like another Shoni army was moving up from the west to reinforce it. So it was a cheeky steal. The enemy were too slow and I was too fast. I'm destroying all of the Christian infrastructure in the area, and I'm going to start making Nagato a very nice Takeda province there on the end of the Japanese mainland of Honshu. We're almost approaching the enemy's domain of Kyushu Island to the west. Now back down in Awaji, I decided it was time to just initiate the battle to decide the fate of this war between the Takeda and the Sogo. 3 of my armies versus 3 of theirs. I have a slight disadvantage on the balance bar, which will be made even worse by the regiment limiter. I'm actually only going to have 2/3 of my strength in this battle, so it could be difficult, but if I win, the island and perhaps all of the Sogo lands will be mine. Alright boys, it's finally time for us to start. The rest of our men have had a head start and have already taken half of the Shoni lands in western Honshu. Looks like we need to wipe out these Sogo fools and take Awaji and Shikoku before our comrades reach Kyushu. Otherwise the glory of wiping the Nanban lovers from Japan will be theirs, and we certainly can't be having that. So let's get off to a good start and slaughter these pitiful Sogo dogs. So the battle for Awaji Island begins. You can see my first move is to consolidate Nobukado's mostly cavalry based force with the reinforcements coming in on the north side of the map. I'm basically rushing him over because I want my forces to be as unified as possible, since the enemy are going to have a big advantage on us. The enemy's initial army is climbing on top of this hill, taking a nice position, and it was around this point I started looking for the enemy reinforcements. There's the enemy's castle. I don't see anything coming from there. There's nothing on the south side of the map coming in either. Well, actually it turns out the enemy's reinforcements didn't show up to the battle. Highly interesting. Perhaps it's a glitch, or perhaps it was supposed to happen. I mean, in the old Total War games, this could occasionally happen deliberately, that reinforcements would by random chance be delayed or be unable to take part in the battle. But if it was a glitch, I felt somewhat vindicated, because I owed some good glitch karma after that glitch in a previous Oda episode where the Shimazu army turned invisible for a while on the campaign map. So I thought, well, I'm almost definitely going to win this battle as a result of this glitch, so I thought I might as well have a bit of fun with it and see if I can try and get the enemy to come down off their hill and practice my general hill siege tactics. First, I managed to move some cavalry forwards and draw forwards one unit of the enemy's cavalry and try to pull them away from the hill, because the hill is covered in archers, so if I get too close I'm going to start taking arrow fire. This small unit of mounted light Naginatas managed to get the enemy away, so these cavalry units are now going to engage. I'll have a slight advantage in that fight, not a very large advantage. The real advantage comes from me piling in more of my local cavalry to take part in the fight as well. So sheer numerical advantage will mean I'll be able to beat that enemy cavalry regiment. However, you can see in the background there, the enemy are moving their bows forward, so they're actually closer to my men and will be more able to engage with my horsemen. So I'm already starting to take losses from their bow fire, and it's only going to continue. So the longer that fight goes on, actually the more it's going to go in my disadvantage. So I need to try and get my men out of bow range. So my guys who were going around the back had to cancel their plan, but these guys actually in the melee are still in the enemy's range. So I want to quickly shatter the enemy cavalry unit so I don't have to worry about it anymore, and then just get out of there as quickly as I can to clear the area. So I actually took moderately high losses in that small engagement. It didn't go as well as I thought, but I have deleted one of the enemy's units, so now their flank is unprotected by cavalry, and they start rearranging their formation to deal with that. And while they're doing that, I'm actually moving my whole infantry formation onto a smaller nearby hill, ready to basically just sit there and wait for me to pull down more enemy units from the hill. On their east side, I managed to get another enemy unit to come down and attack another detachment of my cavalry, and this time it's an absolute slaughter in the favour of the Takeda. The enemy's single mounted Ashigaru unit is completely annihilated by this huge charge of veteran fire cavalry, and they just swarm through the enemy, killing all of them almost immediately. A fantastic result there. Now, as you might guess, the rest of the battle does go on to be a Takeda victory, but I'll show you a few highlights from it anyway in the next Takeda episode. So that's all for now, but to see the Oda attempt to save both Wakasa and Umi provinces, tune in to the next episode of The Eternal Law.